this is more for an online community that's trying to create narratives that simply don't exist. I take personally any suggestions that I don't 100% always have my players back. I ride with them 10 toes down all the time. All the time. They know that. It's a shame that we can't have an opportunity to talk about what great basketball they're playing. The hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win. We will not be divided. I stand by them. I will always stand by them. Everybody else can go to hell.
They don't get it. They just don't get it. This is another prime example of the WNBA operating from a charity mindset instead of a business mindset. What Steph White essentially told the casual fan base last night, which is 99% of the WNBA's audience, what Steph White essentially told them was, we don't want your business. We don't want you watching our substandard product. If you have been watching Uncle KC, this admission is not a surprise to you because Uncle KC has been telling you that for months, maybe even years. Before their game last night with the New York Lesbians, Steph White, head coach of the Indiana Clarks, she addressed the media. Uncle KC, who won this high-profile matchup between these two elite teams? Who cares? You think I wasted my time watching this game? Although, credit to the Indiana Clarks because I hear they are playing really good basketball right now. Matter of fact, in her 2-minute press conference last night, Steph White spent about 2 seconds talking about the great basketball that her team is playing. The other 2 minutes and 10 seconds were spent lecturing the damn fan base and telling us we should be talking about pretend basketball. Steph doesn't want to talk about make-believe basketball, but me and you, we should. From a business perspective, and I know the WNBA still operates as a charity, but from a business perspective, what happened last night was unacceptable. That alone should be enough to get Steph White fired. This is the head coach of the most high-profile team in the league, telling the audience, the customers, to go to hell. But there's another reason Steph White should be fired. Before we get to that, let's get to the sponsor for today's video, my good friends at Sugar Mountain Trading. Mark is one of my longtime viewers. For 34 years, he worked as a warehouse manager at a distribution center for a grocery store. Once he got into his 50s, after 34 years of physical labor, Mark developed pain in his shoulder and his lower back. Like most dealing with pain, Mark was having difficulty sleeping until he heard Uncle KC mention the CBD from Sugar Mountain Trading. Back in June, Mark purchased his first bottle of CBD lotion from Sugar Mountain. The random flare-ups of pain, no longer a constant source of stress because the CBD completely alleviates it. If his shoulder starts bothering him, Mark applies some of the CBD lotion and the pain magically disappears. There is a reason Sugar Mountain Trading has been with me on the channel for the last 2 years. My audience consistently buys their CBD because it works. It's really that simple. If you are dealing with constant pain, I cannot think of a better investment for your comfort. What do you have to lose? Start controlling your pain today by clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Use my promo code BTL25, BTL25. Receive 25% off your first purchase with Sugar Mountain Trading. Before the game last night, Caitlin Clark supposedly told Steph White, "Don't worry about it, Steffi. I've got your back, even though you never have mine." Kate's fearless leader was relentlessly booed while being introduced to the home crowd last night. And you have to remember, earlier this season, attendance was drastically down for the Indiana Clarks. This fan base has been revolting against Stephanie White for months. And look, Steph White might be a great coach. I don't watch enough games with the Indiana Fever to give you a definitive answer. But here's what I do know, and I'm not putting all the blame on Steph White. In any broken relationship, both parties have responsibility. Caitlin Clark fans have a tendency to over-exaggerate. Every move is over-analyzed. But this relationship between Stephanie White and the Fever fan base, this relationship is over. How in the hell do you come back from this? How do you come back from your head coach telling you to go to hell? You see, this is one of the many problems in this toxic turd of a league. The WNBA is reactionary, and their overreactions are always based on emotion. As a business, emotion is the path to bankruptcy, because when you're emotional, you're not thinking clearly. Like I've told you guys before, this league is in desperate need of leadership. Where in the hell is Kat Engelbert? You know why Steph White is comfortable having a public meltdown? You know why the head coach of the most high-profile team in the league is comfortable telling fans, customers, not to watch their unbelievably bad product? Hell, Steph, you don't have to tell Uncle KC not to watch the WNBA. I will gladly not watch voluntarily. The reason we continue to see these meltdowns in the WNBA dump, there are never any consequences. And there are never any consequences because Kat Engelbert has no idea what the hell she's doing. You know, I almost feel bad for Kathy Engelbert. Almost. Normally, businesses progress slowly. Take my channel, for example. I started this channel back in August of 2019, mainly as a hobby. For 2 years, I had the benefit of trial and error. I had the benefit of learning my craft without having the exposure of a massive audience. The mistakes that I made, they went unnoticed. While I was learning, no one was watching. As the channel has grown over the years, I've grown along with it. But it was a very slow process. It didn't happen overnight. And I learned that to make it here on YouTube, you have to be obsessed with it. It has got to consume you. This morning, my laptop battery just decided that it was going to be useless. It died and it wouldn't charge. I use my laptop for research. I use it for my scripts. Without it, I'm pretty much useless. I had two options. I could take the day off and buy a new laptop and permanently solve the problem, or I could find a way to get my work done and permanently solve the problem later. There are no excuses. This video was getting uploaded one way or the other. Thankfully, my sister bailed me out and let me borrow her laptop. But that is the level of obsession that I'm talking about. And I just don't see that in the WNBA. There are very few players in this toxic turd of a league that are obsessed with basketball. Most seem to be obsessed with politics, fame. With the WNBA, this league went from anonymity to mainstream with one draft pick. And it wasn't like the NBA in the 80s where Michael Jordan slowly progressed from being a star to being a global icon. The WNBA went from operating in the shadows to having a massive mainstream spotlight, and it all happened fast. Truth is, they were not ready. And I don't think anyone would be ready. Problem, though, for Kat Engelbert, she has now had 2 years to learn. She's had 2 years to figure out what the hell she's doing. And Kathy Engelbert is just as lost today as she was when Caitlin Clark was drafted. To be honest with you, I'm surprised the stain of the WNBA hasn't been applied to the NBA. If there were constant scandals at the New York Post, if journalists at the New York Post were constantly causing controversy, the stain and the blame, it would fall on Fox News because the Murdochs own the Post. Somehow, the NBA has managed to escape, and it's their fault too because they keep funding this dump of a league. Like I've told you guys before, the culture in the WNBA is toxic. What we saw last night from Steph White, she became the temporary face of the toxic culture. This league needs to be cleaned out from top to bottom. Coaches, players, the front office, anyone who's bad for business, anyone who prioritizes politics over basketball, they need to be gone. One of the reasons we continue to see this unprofessional behavior in the WNBA, this league is not operating as a standalone business. It is far past time for the WNBA to sink or swim on their own. 2 years ago, this league lost $50 million. But Uncle KC, last year in the WNBA, they supposedly achieved the impossible. They finally made a profit. They're no longer a charity. No longer a charity? The NBA continues to subsidize this turd. The television deal that the mainstream media claims the WNBA negotiated for themselves, it was another generous subsidy from their primary subsidizers in the NBA. Over $200 million a year given to the WNBA. And that's just the money that we know about. There's no telling how much money the NBA has dumped into this turd of a league. I told you guys earlier this year when the WNBA made the monumental mistake of overpaying entitled players, and I'm not talking about every player in the league. There are some good players in the WNBA, but when they overpaid entitled players, I told you the entitlement would get worse. The behavior would get worse. You don't solve entitlement by giving more entitlement. You solve it through leadership. And it is abundantly clear to everyone at this point, there is no leadership in the WNBA. There are no adults in the room. No one is in charge. And look at the end result. The head coach of the most high-profile team in the league is essentially telling fans not to watch. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.